Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Black British Parent Podcast. And today we have another fantastic guest, Paula Perry.
Greetings.
Greetings. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's been some time that I've meant to join you in some form of capacity, but I'm grateful to be here today.
And we're grateful for you accepting our invitation. Please tell our audience about yourself and what you do.
Okay. So as Debbie just mentioned, my name is Paula Perry. I run an organization called You For Us, which is dedicated on breaking negative generational cycles. So You For Us means when you are at your best, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, it impacts the us. The us being your children, your family members, your peers, and ultimately the wider community. So that's where I got the name from. I focus on 3 areas in the business: finance, education, parenting. So I do different things in a number of those fields. So for example, I have financial seminars helping people with financial literacy. I do that with adults. I do that with college students. I do that with school children. I also do education around Black history because I have 2 best-selling books around Black history. Thank you. One's called Black British History. The other is 30 Black History Icons, which covers 500 years of global Black influences.
Gosh, yes.
So I do education in that form. And then the parenting element is something that I do with just wanting to bring awareness, because I do a lot of work in schools, colleges, and I'm able to have deep conversations with the young people that I work with. So some of the things that they open back up to me about, I feel like that is a discussion that needs to be fed back into the community for awareness of what's impacting children. So most of the time I work with young people that would be called as the bad kids or not engaging in education, but most of the times it is about them not being understood or not having someone believe in them or speak positivity into them. And the reason why this work is so important to me, because of my own childhood and my own upbringing, where I've had to become the person I am, not necessarily I saw a role model or anybody being that around me. I had to become it. So that's why it's so heartfelt to me with the work that I do. And where I say, for the next generation, I so believe in every generation needs a step. We need a step so they can step on and everyone can step on and develop. Well, unfortunately, sometimes we're not seeing that, and there's the backward development, decline, that's it, going on, as opposed to working on the steps going forward.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, I know that was a lot.
No, but you do a lot, and I wouldn't have been able to break it down and include everything the way that you have done. That's why I'm probably the lazy route of getting you to introduce yourself. But no, we get it all, the layers and the complexities and the different areas of how it all combines and joins together, the work you're doing, because I find that we as a people, we're multifaceted anyway.
Yes.
So, and sometimes we're kind of restricted into doing one thing because it looks like you're doing too much, but they're all the things that we're doing are kind of encompassed together in many ways. So.
I like the way you get that, because sometimes I feel like, Paula, some people would say to, your hair on the social media when it comes to business, you need to niche down in something and you need to focus on something. But I find all the work that I do leads back to the one thing, wanting to help my community and people develop in life. To change the way they may think, to change the way they're doing things. So all the different pockets of work that I do feeds into breaking a cycle, changing a mindset for the next generation. So I don't think I could be squared into a box, because I love every different thing that I do, and it all feeds back into someone developing their self and having a domino effect for the future or those around them.
Real talk. I normally invite my guests onto this little icebreaker, and it is, please let us know what your favorite movie of all time is, if you have one.
Oh, favorite movie of all time. Oh my gosh.
It normally gets people stuck, I think.
It does.
Especially for movie buffs as well.
All right. I know I'm probably not going to, I know you said one. I'm going to do one from a child era. It's a film called The Never Ending Story. One of my favorites.
I love that film.
I absolutely love it.
I'll try you.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Sebastian. Sorry, but you get it, right? Those who get it, get it.
Yeah.
If you know that film. Adult-wise, Oh,
There's been a lot of new ones come out recently.
there's a lot of new ones. Can I have two?
I'll give it to you.
All right, cool.
I'll give it to you.
One is The Gladiator.
Yes.
Absolutely love that
Brilliant
film. It's a
movie.
film that I can watch over and over again, and I don't mind.
Did you watch the second one?
I haven't watched the second one yet. I'm a bit scared because the one I love, and I'm scared to watch two, and it just makes me feel like they should have never done a two.
Yeah.
But
I
people
hear
are saying
that.
it's good,
It
so I
is
will
good.
watch it. But I don't know if it's going to live up to one. Another film I absolutely love is it called The King? The Serena Williams dad story? Is it called
Yes,
The King?
I can't remember.
I can't remember if it's called The King, but it's the life story of
What was it called? Can I look for it?
Venus and Serena Williams.
You're gonna get it?
Okay,
I remember that one, yeah,
it gives the story. I think that's a film that I really,
That's a very
really
good
love as
film.
well. Really good film. There is many, but I've just
Those
because of
are
the
ones that stand
contrast
out,
of
yeah,
those
yeah.
two. Those were good
Never
movies.
forget the first one is what you said, Never Ending Story. That's a
Yes.
classic.
Some people don't know it, you know. A lot of people don't know. So I'm glad that you knew King Richard. That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
a lot of
I-
people don't know the Never Ending Story. So when I do say it, and people are like, I know it. I'm like,
Mate,
yes.
yeah, shout out to Star Videos on Wolf Road. I used to get that
Mm-hmm.
on video, VHS, on the regular. My dad used to get
Yes.
annoyed, keep getting that same film over and
You're
over
right,
again.
okay.
So I was one of them. I
we
I
had it on
love
the
fantasy
VHS as
films.
well,
Yeah.
Or Betamax.
Yeah.
Show my age there.
Betamax, boy. Okay, so you call yourself a cycle breaking strategist.
Yes.
Let me get the word right. What does that mean, and why is that so important for Black families when it comes to finances?
Okay. So the reason why I call myself a cycle breaker at the beginning is because I've broken many cycles with my family. So I mentioned at the beginning my childhood growing up. So I had quite what people would call a disadvantage or difficult childhood. By the time I was 13, I was practically doing things for myself, living by myself.
Gosh.
I'm a teenage mum as well.
Yes.
I got kicked out of school at 15.
Wow.
Went straight to YTS, pretended I was 16, and got learned to do business administration level 1 and 2, where I learned to touch type.
Pretended you were 16.
Pretended I was 16, so I was getting the weekly wage while I was learning. So I was one of the children kicked out of school, had baby young, where grandma would say, "Una fala Paula." So I was that child that my younger cousins and stuff. I was someone not.
How
to be
did that
looked
feel
on.
for you at that time?
At the
if you
time, I
remember?
felt it was hard. It felt like because I always felt like a bit of an outcast of the family because of the dynamics in my home and things that were going on. We always kind of felt a bit looked down upon, and from a very young age, I've said to myself, I'm not going to be like anybody I see around me. And I didn't really have any aunties or anyone to say, you know what, I want to be like her, I want to be like her. But I've made it in my mind that I'm going to be someone. I'm going to make a difference. The easiest way to say I didn't have any role models, so I became the role model. And plus having a daughter so young, it was one of the things to me that said, has to be done. So for example, fast forward, and I became the first person to do many things in my family. So I'm the first person to go to university. I'm the first person to own property. I'm the first person to have a profession and earn over a certain threshold. Thank you so much. So I'm the first person to do many things in my family, which I broke a cycle and changed the direction for the generations behind me, my children, change the direction that they could have gone in. So it's really, really important. So when I speak about things, I understand where I'm coming from and what I've gone through and the process that I've gone through to where I am today. So grandma does say now, una did talk to Paula, but God bless her, she's not here no more, but it did turn around. So when it comes to cycle breaking, I understand and I know what I'm talking about. And that's the thing that I want others to see, that you can be the first. Just because, you've not seen no one around you, be a doctor, be a lawyer, whatever it may be when I talk to young children, or even as adults, we kind of just follow unconsciously, and it's a natural thing, we carry on a cycle and we just believe this is the way it's done, or this is the way it's always done, or I don't know any other way to do it. So we continue, and unfortunately, a lot of the cycles that sometimes being continued are negative ones. So that's why cycle breaking is so important to me, and I believe that every person can be that person to break a cycle in whatever area it may be, whether the way we parent, whether we manage money, whether it's the way we, our mindset, the way we do things, our habits. A lot of habits are passed on from generation to generation, and even from, and I know you understand this language, like the womb and holding on to things and how that passes on. So that's a whole different conversation, but how things are passed on via DNA, via, from birth, because it's injected into you because of previous generations. So when we understand that, or we be more conscious about, I'm always telling my child, read a book, learn your books. But have they ever seen me sitting there reading a book? You understand that, we can talk a lot, we can say a lot, but a lot of the next generation are following what we're doing, not what we're saying. And that's really important.
That's real. What was it? What drove you? I mean, I know you said that you just wanted to do better, but again, not having any role models or any inspiring examples immediately in your environment, how was you able to persevere and push on even in those challenging moments without that kind of encouragement or support?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm just going to say how it is. There's always been something in me that says you're going to do, you're going to become something. It's just in me. So let me give you an example, just a quick one. When I was in about 13, my best friend got kicked out of school, and her mum was just tired of it. So she was like, you know what, me can't bother. And it hurt my nerves that my friend wasn't in school. And I'll never forget the red telephone box. I went in there, I called up a school, pretended I was like, hello, my name is and I need to get my daughter in school, and it's really important, and blah, 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 blah. And I got the appointment. Then I had to say to my friend, look, we've got the appointment, but you need an adult to go with you to this appointment. And she got back in school, right?
Wow.
So that was me at 13.
Yeah.
So there's been something in me, but to answer your question more importantly is being 16 and holding a child in my hand that I'm responsible for. I looked at this baby and I said to her, you will never go through anything that I experienced growing up as a child. And then at that point, that's the drive even more that led me to do what I done, go back to school. Like even going to university, I feel like I've been living to prove to myself. So going to university was to prove that you got kicked out of school, but you're able to study at that level. All right? In my workplaces, I started my profession first in administration when I didn't know there was organizations that helped the community. So I went into a government organization that did projects in the community. I didn't know there was projects out there like that. So that brought up my drive to say, oh my gosh, I want to do this. I want to manage projects and develop projects from an administrator to being a program project manager in the organization over the years. That was a drive to say, I want to help people. And the good thing about that was I was managing projects that people if I can do it where I'm coming from, so can everybody in this room. So when I started talking about stocks and shares or learning about stocks and shares and getting into it, I didn't know you could buy shares for 50 pence.
Gosh, yeah.
So I'm thinking, how many others don't know you can buy shares for 50 pence? Or there was shares in Marks and Spencer's was £2.31. You would think it was hundreds or
thousands.
thousands,
Yeah.
but it's not. And once I started developing those knowledges, understanding budgeting, understanding, emergency funds, what this is for, and it made me more want to say, if I know these things, I'm doing these things, not because no one told me. It was more of, I see where I'm coming from, and I never not want to have £100 in a bank, or I never not want to be able to do X, Y, and Z. So I kind of changed my programming, because what they say is you have a blueprint when you're young from what you see, what you learn, what you hear. You develop a blueprint. So by the time you're the age 9, you're kind of who you are.
Yeah.
You've been molded in that way. So you will continue that.
Or who your environment conditioned you to be.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's the blueprint you're given. 99% of the time you follow the blueprint. 1% of the time the people will say, I'm going against that blueprint. Yeah. I was one of those 1% that went against the blueprint. And again, what I was saying earlier, like, I've always wanted to prove to myself, like, you're going to be a good mum. You might have not had the experience of, because it got cut off quite early, and I've had negative experiences of what I've seen and, growing up. But you're going to be a good mum. You're going to be able to manage money. You're not going to waste money on stuff, and just little things that was in me to say, this is what I have to do, because I'm around the environment, okay, family, friends. I'm around a certain environment that would be easily to fall into the environment. But it takes something in you to say, you know what, I'm going against the grain. Yes, and I get this when I was growing up. Paula thinks she's nice. She thinks she's, different. It wasn't that I think I'm nice or I think I'm different. It was just that I just don't want to follow. I just don't want to do what you're doing.
It's just so wild that people would say those things, projecting onto someone who's trying, and they're not making necessarily as much an effort. But I hear crabs in a barrel. I hear that so many times, but that is the epitome of it in terms of projecting somebody what they can and can't do because they think they're better than everybody else. You never said you was better than everyone else. You're just doing what you're doing. Yeah. How does that? I just don't understand how people come with those thoughts. But sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
And I've had that a lot growing up, where I've had to just overcome that and say, no, it's not that. It's just that I'm not a follower.
But you shouldn't have to justify or explain that. Do you get what I mean?
And
I hear you. Yeah.
I just don't want to be that. Like I've had that from young as well, which I'm grateful for now. But the times that we're living in now, it's so easy to just slip into being a follower. Nobody, and not realizing the unique person is the person who's really living, not just going with the tide of following.
Hey family, we hope you're enjoying the show. If you want to stay up to date with all things Black British Parent, we've got the perfect way for you to do just that. Join our mailing list and be the first to know about new episodes, exciting news, and upcoming events. It's super easy to sign up. Just head over to our website and into your email. Don't miss out on the latest from Black British Parent. Join our community today. Now, back to the show.
It's easy though, because back then it was very much about being followers, but even now more so with I keep talking about social media, and I don't mean to knock it, because without social media we wouldn't be able to connect the way we've been able to connect with certain people even on our platform. However, we can see obviously the possible negative side effects of it as well, and how that's the influencers sort of aspect of things that can be quite negative sometimes, or not necessarily as clear.
Yes.
It can be a bit blurry.
The pros and cons are definitely there. And to me, it's the access.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of young people, not even young people, let's say children, have got access too early.
Or should I say vulnerable people, because that can be cross-generational as well. Yeah. But
vulnerable,
for all young people.
But access. So for example, I know times have changed, but I didn't give my eldest daughter a phone until she left school, 16.
Gosh,
Many of her friends had phones, where she used to be like, don't let no one know that I ain't got a phone in her peer group. But to me, you don't need a phone. If anyone needs to phone you, they can phone a house phone. You don't physically need a mobile phone.
So what about traveling to and from school? Because that would be most parents' excuses to give their child a phone.
You weren't far.
Fair enough.
You wasn't far. You took one bus straight home. You got dropped to school.
That's how it was for us back in the day. Real talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that far. And to me, I just wanted to protect her from them days there. What was it? BBM.
I think I remember, yes, BlackBerry. I never, yeah.
So
yeah,
those days it was the BlackBerry. Everyone had the messenger via the BlackBerry. And to me, you didn't need this. If anyone wants to call you, call the phone. Them times there, what was there? The kids had, I think it's Bebo or something. I think she was
so, yeah.
Bebo or something. But I was been that
And there was
parent,
MySpace as well back in the days as well.
I was that parent that if you had something, I need to have your access. I need to be your friend.
So
I need to
to
monitor. And those days it was like I think that was fine. And the thing about it, I was the young mum. So my friends used to be like, but my friends' mums are older than you, and
you're acting older than they are.
You're acting older than them. But it wasn't that. It was just me wanting to protect.
Us,
And at the end of the day, you didn't need a phone. The younger daughter, she had a phone a bit earlier because times are changing. And now, yes, I do want to know, Mum, I've reached home. Or if anything happens, you can speak. But it wasn't a smartphone. It was one that you could call and you could text. She was vexed with that. But this is
a phone.
It's a phone, right? It's a phone. So it's just, I know times have changed, but like I see 8-year-olds with the latest iPhone and on everything. And there's age groups to everything, right? But there's still on certain things. So everybody's parenting style is different, but I just feel like we need to be aware of
be mindful
of what they're accessing.
Yeah. And there's ways of monitoring. Even if you are giving your children these devices, there are ways of being able to monitor certain things a little bit more than perhaps back in the day. It's really quite challenging for parents, I think, especially where you don't want your child to get bullied on one hand, but then also you want to protect you. There's a fine line between those kinds of things.
And I feel like, obviously, I've just got this old mentality and old mindset,
I love it.
Right?
Go on.
But I just feel like if we didn't allow it globally, or just like children shouldn't have phones, or not they shouldn't have phones, or they shouldn't be accessing certain things. And it was just a general thing.
Smartphones,
then no one could be bullied because we've all got a brick, for example. And I know that my daughters be watching this saying, Mom, times have changed now. It's not that. Everyone's got an iPhone, so shut up. But you understand where I'm coming from. It's just the
Mine too, same way. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, they're probably thinking, Mum, you gave us what, like. But the point still remains is, ideally, I agree with you. If all, like up until 16, they had brick phones, and it was a law thing, for example. I'm not inciting that, but I'm just saying if it was one of those legal things, then after that, then they can have a smartphone.
Because you're a bit more mature.
Because there's all kinds of things they can access on the phone
Exactly.
that they shouldn't be accessing. They just have to tap the screen, and it gives them access. So, I mean, how much do you expect parents to be able to restrict their children from these things when, if you don't give your children these things, you're looked at as you're depriving the child as well at the same time. So it's a kind of a...
And there's another coin of it as well, where parents are going into debt to provide
There
their
you
child
go.
with these devices.
Yeah.
So
to keep up with the Joneses.
To keep up with the Joneses and not realizing the Joneses are broke. But anyway.
Yes, moving on swiftly. It ties me into my next question. A lot of us grew up hearing things like money don't grow on trees or we can't afford that. How do these beliefs shape our financial habits as adults?
Yeah. It shapes our mindset, our belief systems a lot. Within our community, there's so much sayings around money.
Yeah.
A majority of them are negative. As growing up, as remember I said about the blueprint, the child's hearing, majority of the times, the sayings are all negative. You know, money don't grow on trees, I ain't got no money, my broke, when I have it, money's the root of all evil. There's so many sayings, especially within our community, and all of them are negative. So if your programming around money is negative, you're almost, when you put a magnet and you put it on the other side and you're repelling money against you, because you will receive money, you will have it, and it will go out of your hands straight away, because your mindset is, you're not meant to have it. Money's the root of evil.
And you don't even realize it. It's so normal. You don't realize it.
Let's look at that one. Money's the root of all evil. Imagine that's a deep belief within you that money is the root of all evil. So when money is attracted to you, or you have money, or you won money, you got inheritance or anything, the natural thermostat for you, I look at it as like a thermostat. It's you've got a thermometer.
Yeah, thermometer.
Right? Yeah. And in the heating system, when the heating gets to a certain level, it locks off, it will turn off, or it will turn on because the level of temperature. Yeah. Same with our money. All right? So if you've got a set of money and it's like, oh, you've got too much, you will spend it, you'll start doing anything till you get back to your base point, which could be whatever your base point is.
I hear it.
And that's what will happen. That's what happens with our mindset and our belief systems around money. So money, the root of all evil, is one that gets used all the time. So if you thought that money is the root of all evil, how do you expect to keep it, attract it, do stuff with it if you feel like in your mindset it's the root of all evil, where money actually is something that can help create good stuff around the world. Yeah. You can be build schools in different countries, and it could be a useful tool for you. But the thing about it, most of us feel like money is just a tool to be spent. Money is just something to be spent, and not realizing it's a tool that can help us to create more money. And just to say that saying, it's money is the root of all evil, it actually is the love of money is the root of all evil. That's a whole different saying.
Conversation, yeah.
A whole different conversation. Yeah. When you love money, you may do evil stuff to get it. Yeah. As opposed to the money is the root of all evil. And as I'm sure everybody knows, it's a biblical term. And when I, read different things in the Bible, people were living lavish. People had nice stuff. People had the finest silks and garments woven with gold and things like that. So God was providing them to be living nice, and so it's just the way that
wealth wasn't a bad thing.
It wasn't a bad thing.
It was a mindset behind the wealth.
Exactly.
That's the issue,
and that's it. So I think that's really important, that the words that we use, and even if we can catch ourselves, oh, I'm always broke. You're just saying I'm always broke, then
it's a mantra you're putting on yourself.
The prophecy of your own tongue.
Yeah,
I'm always going to be broke then. If you could change it right now, my financial circumstances don't allow me to have this, but in the future I will. Could you imagine the difference of what's coming out your mouth, how your mind will attract that? Okay, she's saying she hasn't got it right now, but in the future she will. How can we start, your brain start working to say, how do we start making sure we put things in place for it to happen in the future? Just an example of that, sorry, because I know it's like, have you ever seen a car that you want and you just start saying to yourself, you know what, I want that car. And then all of a sudden, everywhere you turn, you see that car. That's the power of your mind turning on that Debbie wants this car. So now she's going to start seeing it. Then it's going to be, I'm going to start working towards saving. I'm going to start looking now, what are the different price ranges? What are the different styles of this car? And your mind will start working for you to put things in place.
Like you'll program your minds to it subconsciously.
To get that car. All right. Same thing with our money mindset. We need to program it in order for it to start working for us and not working against us.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's not. No. What you said is not, but it's I guess, again, like, this leads me on to my next point, like generational wealth. Like, where do we even begin with that? Because all the things that you said just before, just now, just a minute ago, is some of the things that are hindering us from being able to have generational wealth and make sure. And for you, someone like yourself who's coming from the adversities that you came from, blessings as well, that may seem like hurdles to others, you're still able to invest and create generational wealth for yourself and your family. And there's others that might look at you. How can they do that for themselves?
I think the first step is what kind of coming off of what we were just speaking about. It's around
The mindset.
the mindset. Planning, what is it you actually want?
Yeah.
A lot of the time we do vision boards around stuff, but financial vision boards is good.
Yeah.
What is it that I want? And if I draw it back a little bit, we need to look into where we are right now. A lot of us avoid
Yeah.
the
Like we're going straight into the
situation.
millions and the billionaires.
Yeah.
Let's work on what we need
What
right
is
now.
the situation right
Yeah.
now? Do I have savings? No. Can I save? Maybe not, because there's not money around. But yet, I still have little habits that I've got money for. Because where your priority lies, your money will flow.
Yeah.
All
So it
right?
could be that cup of coffee.
So it could be, it could be a cup of coffee. I don't even want to even go that minute. I feel like,
Say it.
I feel like a lot of, just in general, people will say, I haven't got it, but they've got it for the things they want to have it for.
Yeah.
All right. I don't see, I work with a lot of people who, would seem like once we work together, I can see the actual realness of the matter. But if I wasn't working with you and I didn't see the realness of the matter, I would never know that was the realness.
Yes.
Because the lifestyle seems fine, all right? And the thing about it is we portray something because when almost like I need to portray. All right, let me give you an example. A lot of people drive cars they can't afford. What do I mean by that? They're driving a car that the monthly payment for that car is really killing them. They're struggling, they find it difficult. But the car driving around when they're in that car,
And how people look at them.
how people look at
How
them,
people talk to them.
how people talk to them makes them feel
Yeah.
comfortable, or makes them feel like, okay, what's the word? Just gives you a feeling,
Validated.
validated.
Yeah.
All right, we'll use
Or
that.
accepted, yeah.
But in reality, if I drove a car that was lesser or different, the rest of the money I could be using to look at my savings, to look at clearing debt, I'm not saying you shouldn't have that car, because you should, but let's look at foundation. Let's
Yeah.
build foundations first. And I feel like that's the place where we need to start. We need to look at where we are right now. How much debt am I in? A lot of people don't even want to admit or even look at what is the total amount of debt that I owe, because it's a feeling like I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
All right?
And you can't even begin to work on it if you don't know what you're...
If you don't know...
And that's the thing, something I always
Yeah.
say, we have to look at the problem so we can figure out the solution to the problem, but you can't get
And there's
the
always
solution.
a solution,
There's always
but
a
we
solution.
need to know where
Yeah.
we are now. How much debt do I owe? How much debt am I in? What's my plans of clearing that debt? Because the minute you clear that debt, it helps your credit score. It helps the access to finance that you can have in the future. And that's the thing as well, when your credit score and your finances is in a good place, when it comes to accessing other things, you're limited. So, what is the debt? Do I have any savings? Do I have an emergency for funds? If the car that I'm driving right now, the wheels was something to happen and I need that brand wheels, can I afford it?
Yeah. The next thing. I used to talk about this thing before when we used to do our Instagram lives all the
Yeah.
time, and I felt bad. Especially it being the title Black British Parent, it seems like only black people do these things.
No.
It's not that. All people do it, but we're just focused on
Yes.
the black community because
Yes.
we're black, and it's what we relate to. But I used to always talk about, people have their big boy cars and they're living on council estate. And there's nothing wrong with that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking that perspective. I'm just saying that, in terms of generational wealth, we could be invested. We're clearly not in the best position right now. So if we can have less of the big boy car,
Yes.
have a smaller car and try and save
Yeah.
up and invest and provide for our children a bit better, then perhaps we
And then
might be in a
having
better
maybe
position.
investment money pay for it. And I know we're talking about cars and people are like, oh, why it might
Yeah.
be cars, but it's just an example.
It could be clothes,
just-
it could be all
Yes.
kinds of things that we invest in that we can change. Like I said, I'd say in a cup of coffee, just a small example.
Yes.
But you went straight in for the jugglers with that one.
But yeah,
fair
so
enough.
I just think ultimately we just need to be looking at what our situation is now and what is it that we want for ourselves. Start
Yeah.
planning. What is it actually you want for yourself? Is the financial goal is to have a property? Is it to go on more holidays with your children? Is it what is your financial plan? And then you could start directing your money, because a lot of the time we don't have a budget plan at all. And when you don't have a direction, your money would just go anywhere.
Of course, and if you're scared to look at what you owe and what debts you're in or what your money situation is, then you can't even begin to fathom. So, yeah, it's not. So you say that you, not that you say, because what you say is what you say, but you mentioned obviously the work that you do in schools and colleges and stuff, and working with young people. And before we started recording, you was talking about the impact that is the impact on the children, on the young people when their families don't have much. Can we go into that and elaborate on that in terms?
So a lot of the time when I work with young people, we look at, what their goals are, things that they want to do in the future, and try and change a mindset into positivity, all right? And one thing that I see that comes up regular in their goals is to help parents with money. And I'm talking children from 11, 13, 14, and I feel like that being one of their goals shouldn't actually be their concern, personally. But it just goes to show that stuff that are going on at home, the things that they're seeing, hearing, will allow them to feel like it's my concern. It's something that I want to grow up fast to be able to help with the bills or help with money at home. So that's one thing that I feel like it can have a detriment on a child's mindset or their ability to concentrate in school sometimes when they're also worried about finances at home. So I feel like we need to be looking at how do we protect children from knowing the extent, but how do we have conversations with them that they know that this is not for you to worry about. This is something mum and dad are doing, or mum's doing, or dad's doing, that you don't need to worry about it. You don't need to focus on it, because a lot of young people are worried and focused about helping parents with money.
Yeah. I've two things come to mind. I'm thinking what we was talking about earlier on in terms of when children want to have certain things and obviously might find that they can't have those things. That can be quite a really eye-opening moment to that child that then might think, well, if mum can't afford to give me what everybody else can have, then I want to be able to help and bring into the home. So it can be a bit of a tricky sort of situation, because even then you might not want to give it to your child, not because you can't afford it, you just don't want your child to have a phone, innit? Simple things, a mobile phone, a smartphone.
And I think that's why it's good to have conversations and bring children into learning about money from a young age.
So I was going to ask you, at what age would you?
I think from the minute they know this is money. Yeah.
Gosh.
So kids know what money is from an early age. So, for example, birthday money, Christmas money. If you can get them in the habit of, when you get money, I don't know, 10% goes into your piggy.
Yes.
And you can spend the rest. You got £10, £1 needs to go into the piggy. Get them in the habit of that from early. Most of us who have children, there's certain things that we buy for the children in the shopping. Make that be their budget, for example. So this is your budget for your weekly stuff. Do you want X or do you want Y?
Yeah.
Because it's only one of them that you can have. That will get them into the budget of budgeting. Sometimes you might take away so they can see that there's less this month. So you have to choose between the two.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might reward them and add more. So actually,
That's a good
you've
idea.
actually been really good this month or good this week. You've got more in your budget to have an extra treat. So it gets them into the habit of budgeting as well.
And if you're smart as a
understanding
parent,
budgeting.
And if you're smart as a parent, if you, those weeks you take away, that might be able to build up for that moment when you give them a treat. So it's not always coming too much out of your pocket as a parent, but you can still give them the experience. So I didn't mean to cut in, but I just wanted to add that point.
So that's something that I've always said is good, of getting the children involved with the budgeting. And I think we need to just have good conversations and think about the way we say things as well, as we spoke about the language that we use around finances as well. No, it's not that I ain't got it, or we've got to save towards this. This is something that we need to save towards. So for your birthday, you may get it. We have to save towards. It's not something that you just get instantly, because I think a lot of young people just believe that
They expect they're very entitled these days. A bit too entitled.
Yeah.
I mean, we were when we were young, but boy.
Yeah.
So again, you keep saying things that's leading on to the next question, but that's awesome. So some people hear the word budget and immediately feel restricted. How can we reframe budgeting as something empowering rather than limiting?
Definitely. I feel like budgeting is the foundation of growing wealth. You need to know how much money you're spending in different areas. Like it's your foundation. So you can't get away from it. Some people do look at, I'm a penny pinching and so forth. No, you just knowing exactly how much you spend in different areas of your life. A lot of people, if I was to ask them, how much do you spend on Uber? They don't know. How much do you spend on travel? Don't know. How much you spend on... They don't know. But the minute you start understanding your budget and knowing how much you spend in different areas, I normally, when I have presentation, I have an owl that comes up, and the owl's eyes are big. I'm spending £450 a month on cheese sandwiches for lunch.
Damn.
When you understand...
Cheese sandwiches.
Right. When you understand that, for example...
Did you say £400? Is that real?
I'm just giving you an example. So lunch,
I thought that was real,
lunch,
but yeah, okay, fair enough.
So you got, for lunch, cheese sandwich, a pack of crisps, a drink.
Yeah.
£7, £8.
That's quite, well, yeah, right? When you add it all up.
When you add it all up. When you're looking at that, you say, oh my gosh, why can't I'll bring my lunch to work now? I'll make my sandwiches. How much of a difference is that going to make, or a savings is that going to make? For example... you travel in zone 1. What if I took a bus to a certain point and then walk the rest? How much would that save you in travel? So it's a part of your wealth planning, understanding where you are now, where you could make changes. It's not even about being frugal. Where can I make changes? Because actually I didn't realize I was spending that much in that area. A lot of us, for example, when we've got subscriptions or car insurance and things, we just let it roll over without looking. Let me go back every year. Let me look back on comparing different prices, and then you can make savings in different areas. So there's lots of different ways you could potentially do things, but budgeting is your foundation. Budget is you knowing in black and white your financial situation monthly.
Thank you. That was a wicked answer. The gems are dropping. So a lot of people in our community struggle with debt. What's your best advice for someone trying to get out of the cycle of borrowing and struggling?
Okay. Again, I'm going to go back to knowing your numbers. How much debt are you in? A lot of the time, we're trying to pay a little bit to everyone. If you've got a debt management plan, which is what I call it, a debt management plan is where there's two ways of doing it. You rather focus, you put all your debt down, the smallest to the largest, or high interest to the lowest interest, and then you work your way on paying off one at a time. So look, most of the times we try and pay everything a little bit. But what I would do is look at having a debt management plan where you focus on one debt at a time. Everyone else gets paid the minimum, but you focus all your efforts on clearing one. Normally it could be the smallest to start with to give you momentum. Once that's finished, all the money that was focused on that debt now goes on to the next one on the list. Once that's cleared, you move down and move down and move down. But you do have to have a plan. A lot of the times there's credit cards used and we just think, let's pay the minimum payment. And that item that you spent in the beginning could now cost you 10 times.
Yeah, so I was about to say double,
not even
10
double.
times. Jeez.
Could be 10 times what you originally.
But if you just saved
owed.
for it and then paid for it,
and if you just saved for it in the beginning and paid for it,
and
I understand sometimes that doesn't. It doesn't.
Of course, you might need it now.
You might need it now, but it just goes to show, like, am I prepared to save for something to have it, or pay 3 times, 4 times?
Be mindful and perhaps prepare a bit more planning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So having a debt management plan is important, and going through it and being bold. I always say that, not running away from things, but just knowing your numbers puts you in control. It puts you in a position that, you know what, I've got a plan. I'm in control of what's going on. Most people feel out of control with their finances because they've not got a plan. And then once you have a plan involved, you feel more control. You feel more in control.
Thank you. So again, many of us are taught to save, but not necessarily to invest. So what's the best way for beginners to start investing, even with a small budget? I like that you said before that people didn't know you could perhaps get a shares or in Marks Spencer for 50p or
Yes.
so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's about doing research, looking into things. So, for example, there is sites that you can go into. I'm trying to think of the one on the top of my head, and it's not coming to me. But I will let you know what it is. I can see that app is called Free Trade.
Yeah.
So it's a free website that you can download, and it's easy to access, easy to use. And if you recommend a friend, you get some money, they get some money, and so forth. So it's called Free Trade. There's sites that you can have small amounts of money, £10, £20, that does the investing for you. A lot of the banking websites now. I used to do a money savings challenge, and Monzo's now actually doing that money savings challenge via the app. So I feel like you got to want to do your research and look at what are things that I can save in with a small amount of money. Like the internet is there, that you can type that into a search and it will bring up a lot of information. So, and being open that you are able to be an investor.
Yeah.
Even if you're investing £2, you're investing in something. And there is something for everybody to be able to invest small in. And you start small, but it's always a risk of investing because you could lose the money. So never invest nothing that you're not willing to lose. But I always feel that you need to take a chance, because I'm that type of person. When I started investing, I learn by doing. I have to do it to learn. And at the time I was reading investing magazines, and AI was something that was coming out, and I was reading that robots are going to be taking over things, and robots are taking over,
AI
certain jobs and
Yeah.
so forth. And there was an organization that came out that I called Blueprints that I invested in. I can't remember how much I invested. It might have been £1,000 or something. The shares was £1 something at the time. 4 years later, that investment grew and I got a good return on my investment. I wasn't no expert. I didn't know a lot. It was just that the information that I was reading, that share made sense because of the technology advancement and robots doing certain mundane jobs in organizations and so forth. So it just made sense, and that's only because I was reading and doing research around it, that when that opportunity came up, it clicked that this may be a good investment. And like I said, there's organizations that do it for you that you can just put up in a pot. There's ISAs that do.
I swear Nationwide offers you the opportunity when you're about to make a payment or transfer, it asks you if you want to put £1 or £2 or something into a pot, I think, if I remember rightly.
There's things that do that. There's banking apps putting your change into things and doing it. So there's a lot of stuff that you can research into.
So with the cost of living rising, many parents are looking for extra income streams. What are some realistic side hustles that can actually bring you money? Are you the best person to even ask that question? Because I think this question is one that people want to have the answer to, but it's just so
broad. I feel like each and every one of us have unique skills that we're able to monetize. It's about how do you do that? So, for example, just, when someone said to myself, actually, I'm going to walk people's dogs and get money. I'm sure when that first came out, I was thinking, like, who's going to pay me to walk your dog when you can walk it yourself? But there's a market for it. You might be someone who sews and be able to mend clothing instead of buying a new something because you're able to mend it. Like, what are the skills that you have uniquely that you're able to use? Like, the internet is wide now. People are so, I don't want to say lazy, but they will pay for you to tell me how to do something. Ebooks. Everyone's got knowledge that you might be able to put into an ebook and sell it. It might be, it doesn't have to be the most expensive thing. It could be something that's, quite accessible. but the access that you've got through the social media of 100 people accessing that ebook because they need it is revenue. So I just feel like utilizing your unique skills that you have and don't overthink it. It might be something just so simple. Like I said, there's the sewing. You might be good at sewing and you enjoy it.
I like how you keep going back to sewing though.
Yeah, that's something that I want to learn to do as well. That's why I got a sewing machine that I bought that I've not used. And because I like fashion. If I knew how to make my own stuff and jazz up my own stuff. But people pay for those things.
Yeah.
People pay for those things. I've got a friend who started like a school, bringing the kids to school, just using her car, taking a few kids to school, and just a small amount she's charging from those people in her local area, but it's helping her with her petrol. It's helping her with,
some extra income, just a little
extra income, and it might be
yeah.
small. Other things that I would look at as well is spaces that you have. People pay for spaces. Do you have a car space outside your house that you haven't got a car for? You could rent that out on a website and rent your car space that people park their car there.
Yeah.
If you've got storage, people pay for storage. So there's things out there that could be done that you may not even think of that could bring an extra income.
That's cool. It's interesting now that they're putting a crackdown on people with their side hustles though now as well.
HRMC want their money.
Yeah.
They want their money. Because I heard that they're having a crackdown on some of the sites that you can sell your goods.
Yeah. There's often shame around money issues, especially in our community.
Yeah.
How can we start having more open and honest conversations about financial struggles without judgment?
Yeah. That's a good one. And that's one of the reasons that when I originally started, why finance was the start. Because finance is normally the pitfall for the ills in our community, the lack of. And shame will allow you to suffer in silence when it comes to finances, when you need help. A lot of people don't open letters because they're like, I just can't deal with that, which leads into a spiral and makes situations more challenging as well. And I always say that asking for help or seeking support is a sign of strength, not weakness. And I think we need to have more open conversations around finances. And I feel like that's when I first started doing this in 2016 is why I became quite popular, because I'd done things in a loving way. It wasn't in judgment. It was to help the community speak about finances more openly. And I think that's what we need to do. So some of the things that we've spoken about during our time about understanding our numbers, being open to ourselves, taking out the bank statements, open on our banking app and looking, it might be in red right now, and that's fine. What are the steps that we can do and take in order for you to get back into a positive state within your finances? And that might be going through all the letters and understanding exactly where you are financially, with who you owe, how much you owe, and just facing it head on. Because as I said, when you're in control of your finances, that's what gives you confidence. That's what makes you think, yeah, well, I'm in 20 grand debt. Okay, cool. But I'm managing in it now. I've got a plan. I'm working towards getting that debt down, which will then increase my credit, which will then give me more money because I'm not paying for that debt no more, which is now going to lead to me putting more money for my emergency funds, putting more money into my savings. So it's about really, I understand it can be shameful, but be honest to yourself. Like, let's get honest. I don't need to tell everybody else what my financial situation is. You don't need to know. However, I'm going to be honest to myself. And then I could be honest to those immediate who I'm close with. You know what? Every weekend you want to go out, and I don't want to let you know that I haven't got it this week to go out with you, and I'm not going. All right. So why don't we buy a bottle of wine instead of buying those cocktails that we're spending £10 on each night? Let's buy a bottle of wine and stay at home and chill. Different things can happen.
Or instead of going to the restaurant, let's cook a meal together and do it in each other's house.
And break bread with each other, rotate, have a laugh, get a bottle. Let's do it internally. because then if I'm close with you, I can say that to you. Like, I
Yeah.
can't, I'm not, most of the times we're wanting to still do when we know we can't, because I don't want to let you know that,
Keeping up with the Joneses.
yeah, I can't come out of you this week.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I used to be like this, knowing our emotional states. If I was upset or something was wrong, I used to love walking up and down Oxford Street, swinging the bag side to side. And it wasn't because I needed any of the things. It was helping me emotionally, because I was emotionally spending. Then I would take those bags, stuff them in the wardrobe, because the other bags were still there, because I can't hang up none of these stuff because there's no space. So it got to a point where I realized, Paula, you don't need these things. How much things have you got in the wardrobe? With all of us. How much stuff have we got in the wardrobe?
It's got tags.
We've got tags on it, but you thought you needed those things. Again, this is one of the basics that we didn't go through, the difference between needs and wants.
Yes.
Most of the times we think we need things. No, you don't need them. You want them. There's a big difference between needs and wants. Needs are things that we need to survive in life. Shelter, heating, food, clothing to a certain degree, not the designer clothing. We want those, right? Clothing are the things that we need. Everything else is a want. So, everything else is a luxury, all right? So then when we can start monitoring what is the luxury things, can I do without it for just a time being, because I believe we all need luxury, we all deserve good things, but can I do without it while I'm sorting out the foundation, while I'm looking at focusing on clearing my debt, while I'm looking at building my emergency funds, while I'm looking at building my savings so I'm able to invest and have a return on my investment. These are the things that we need to be focused on to help us for the future. Needs and wants is foundation. With the budgeting is foundation. With the debt management plan is foundation stuff. And then I feel like once we work on those things and have a hold of it, that's when you feel in control. That's when you feel confident with your own finances. But until we know our numbers in black and white, that's what would lead us to not feeling shame, feeling embarrassed that, I haven't, my finances ain't in the right place, because we're not taking control of it.
Yeah. Thank you again. What's your own financial journey? Mm-hmm. What's one financial mistake you've made in the past that taught you a valuable lesson?
Listening to people that don't have what I want.
That's simple, straightforward. Yeah.
Simple and cheerful. I remember when I first bought a property, people around me were saying, "Why am I doing that?" Not that they probably didn't want the best for me, but they didn't have that, so they wasn't able to relate.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's a key thing, that we can't be listening to people or taking advice from those who haven't actually got what we want or are on that road to what we want. And even when I think about it, like growing up, I was always been pretty good with finances. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, one time I had a lot of savings and I had a few credit cards at the time. And someone I worked with said to me, "There's no point in you having all that savings if you've got debt." But I didn't understand what they meant. And she said, "Because you're paying interest." And as soon as she'd done that, the savings that I had, I cleared all the debt. But guess what I'd done? Say it was, argument's sake, £200 a month. Now that £200 a month wasn't free money that was in my purse, I started putting that £200 away like I was still paying that every month. And then it built back up. So that's another good thing. When you clear something,
you've got the money to be able to use it.
Yeah, because normally what we do is our income raises, then our outgoings raise.
Yeah, we'll find something else to spend it on.
Exactly.
Instead of investing it.
Instead of investing or having that extra money, saying, I haven't been used to this extra money, so let me put it away.
Yeah.
Same with my daughters. When my daughters first started working, I said, you're not used to this money.
Yeah.
Put half of it away straight away and live on the other half, because you didn't have it before.
Yeah.
And they got into that habit of just putting away half of their money. I've always said to them, if you need it, it's there for you to access, but you wasn't used to it in the first place, so it's easy for you to put away.
Especially if you don't have no financial responsibilities.
Yes.
At the time, in earlier stages.
Exactly.
And what's the best piece of money advice you've ever received?
Pay yourself first. Yeah. When I heard about the pay yourself first, I said, that makes sense. And that pay yourself first, we always hear that. Put away 10% of your money, minimum, before you do any, before the gas man gets paid, the mortgage, before anything gets paid first. Because imagine you've been working for the whole month. Everybody gets paid, gas man, electric man, mortgage, rent man. Everybody gets paid before you do.
Yeah.
Pay yourself first, and then you live off the rest.
Yeah.
I think that was a good bit of advice, because that 10% turned into 20%, it just started increasing, but it was something that I always done, is put away first.
And don't be one of them that just only pay yourself and don't pay the other bills you to pay. Because that defeats the purpose. Do you get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Paula, I don't know if this ties into, obviously we spoke mostly about money and finances, but for the sake of the works that you do working with young people and things that we're discussing before recording, what's something that you wish young people knew? What is it that what message do you think young people need to hear?
One thing that I feel like I wish young people knew is that loving yourself is so important. Yes, you may seek external love and feel like you need external love, which we do, because it's a way of life. But loving yourself and being happy with yourself and looking in the mirror and loving what you see is so important. Because often we're always looking to be like somebody else. We're always looking to, what somebody else is doing and feel like they're better than us. But you being unique and looking at yourself beautifully is so important, and what will help you in the future as well.
Thank you so much for joining us, Paula. It's been a long time coming, and you're finally here. Hopefully you'll be back again.
No, definitely.
So we normally tie this up with, do you have a message for Black British parents?
Okay. Yes, thank you for having me. And my message for Black British parents is, you are the one who can make the change for the generations that are coming behind you, and be the cycle breaker and be that person who has a domino effect for everybody else around you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Please also let our listeners know how they can get in touch with you.
So I am on most social medias. Instagram, I'm quite active. I'm at youforus_UK. You can also find me on Twitter with the same handle. And Facebook is Paula N. Perry.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate being here.
Guys, that's another episode of the Black British Parent Podcast. I hope you enjoyed, and take care.